to session 2 of vegan theology, and let's do our prayer first. Let's say our prayer first. All right, session 2, vegan theology. Dominion in Genesis 1:28 means serving the animals. Let's look at the verses themselves first. Genesis 1:28. And God said, "Let us make man in our image, after our likeness. Let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creeps upon the earth." Genesis 1:26. And then Genesis 1:28. And God blessed them referring to Adam and Eve. And God said unto them, "Be fruitful and multiply, and replenish the earth, and subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, and over every living thing that moves upon the earth." That's the verses. Now, many flesh eaters, including famous theologians and priests, have seized upon these three phrases in Genesis 1:26 and 1:28 to justify enslavement, exploitation, abuse, rape, and murder of animals, unfortunately. In our submission, dominion in Genesis 1:26 and 28 means neither lordship nor despotism nor even stewardship, but servanthood, devoid of power and authority. Iradu, the ancient biblical Hebrew word in consonantal form for dominion in the verses concerned, refers to either rada, that is to tread down, to subjugate, or to rule, or yarat, which means to lower oneself, to descend. In my view, dominion can only mean the latter, that is to lower oneself, because number one, it is in the spirit of Jesus, who said that he has come to serve, not to be served. Mark 10:45. Professor Andrew Lindsay even contends that the human species has the unique potential to become the servant species, able to work with God in liberating animals. Secondly, the instruction is immediately followed by a vegan diet prescribed by God to humans, Genesis 1:29, as pointed out by Lindsay. Thirdly, in Genesis 2:15, as noted by Richard Rittenbow, 1999, humans are particularly assigned to tend, that is to abad, and to keep, in Hebrew it is shama, the garden, that is to be a caretaker of it. Caretaker, not the Lord or not the owner, not the boss. Okay, so this is a summary of our interpretation of dominion in Genesis 1:26 and 1:28. Any question? Maybe, let's see. now we have how many people here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. I think I have introduced myself last time, and would you please each of you briefly introduce yourself and why you are interested in this course, etc., or what you expect from this course? Anyone want to start first?
I could start. My name's Elise, and I'm interested because I've been vegan for 6 years, and I'm also Christian, and I feel like there's more truth that I'm looking for because a lot of what I'm understanding from the Bible doesn't make sense to me, so I'm just looking for more answers.
Oh, thank you. So what do you expect from this course? Or more answers, right?
Yeah. And to also be able to like have a, be educated and be able to have a conversation with people about it too.
I know. All right. And so how about David?
Yeah, my name is David. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and I was raised in the church, Pentecostal church, and it was through disease that I got very interested in not just the King James Version. I found a lot of contradictions. I started going back to the Hebrew Bible. And I'm taking a couple of courses, but don't have a bachelor's. But what I can get out of this course is more background depth. For example, we covered in session 1 why Paul was against Jesus, and he was under, I'll say, Roman duress at that time. And this is the first time that I learned from a different perspective. The Roman archives are huge. Describes a lot of information, and meeting people as yourself and also Craig to give that depth background answers a lot of questions, and it puts a little bit more pieces to the puzzle. So I'm glad to be here and glad to be a part of this community.
Okay. Oh, thank you, David. And Susan.
Yes, hi everybody. I'm Susan from Australia. So I was just saying before, it's early in the morning here, but I'm really glad to be part of this study. I was brought up on a sheep farm, but underwent quite a radical transformation and an instant transformation to go vegetarian for a few weeks and then vegan about 10 years ago, or probably 11 years ago now. And I have done some study in a master's transformational development where I had the opportunity to write a paper actually, and part of it was actually about rethinking what we're talking about, dominion theology. But I have a little bit of a concept about what we might be talking about today, but I'm really interested for the future weeks as well as how to look at various aspects in the Bible and where, food is mentioned, and just to be able to have a better understanding of, apologetics when I talk to people, to other Christians especially, and so I can back up, my deep beliefs, my deep spiritual beliefs that we should all be vegan, that, Jesus, that was the intention in the beginning. And I want to be able to, back up that better to have more, more learning, more education. So I know how to answer some of those tough questions that I know that will come. So thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Well, thank you, Vanessa. Yes. And Craig.
Hi, I'm Craig Wesco. I'm the pastor of Creation Care Church, which is a vegan Christian church. And I also run a vegan Christian discipleship school through Swords to Plowshares. That's s2p.org. And I'm here because I've been following Dr. Chapman Chen's work, all of his blog posts and articles and such for years. And I know he's very knowledgeable about these topics. And so I wanted to come for the discussions and also to see how he presents his work. So looking forward to having fruitful discussions here and so we can learn from each other.
Thank you, Craig, for your kind words. And Vanessa. Yes, Vanessa.
Sorry, I'm still having problems with my laptop, so I'm just trying to work on it. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Oh, good, thank you. Right, well, I'm in UK, in northern part of England. I am vegetarian. I'm not a meat eater, but I'm not vegan yet, fully. We had that conversation last week about eggs,
Yes.
and I didn't think it was a problem having an egg from a well looked after hen. So that's where I've come in from, because I'm still eating eggs, but I don't eat anything else. Excuse me. I run a Facebook group, as you know, for petitions against animal cruelty. I'm very passionate. I don't follow any particular religion, but I am spiritual. I believe in an afterlife, and I believe in Jesus and following what Jesus told us to do. I find your course very interesting. I'm looking forward to doing all 12 sessions. I've learned an awful lot just in last week, so I'm very thankful that we've met. And I think there's a reason for everything, and I think this was meant to be. And thank you very much for what you're doing, and it's lovely to meet everybody in this group. So thank you.
Thank you, Vanessa, for your support and for your kind words. Right, so let's see. Next, Mandy.
Hello. Yeah. Hey, I'm English, but I live in Austria. I'm a Christian, and I became a vegetarian as a child because I didn't want to eat animals, and I've been a vegan when I found out about the dairy industry since for 7 years now. And my problem is that I'm an animal activist, and I know the people there don't want anything to do with the church because they don't like the way Christians treat animals. And the church that I go to, everybody else eats meat and doesn't understand me. So I'm sort of a middleman, and I'd like to be able to to talk on each side and to maybe encourage both sides to think more of this, for me, a big problem.
Yes, I understand your dilemma, because I think most of us are in the same situation.
Yeah.
So let's see. So Daniela.
Yeah, so my name is Daniela. I am originally from Germany, but currently live in the United States in Arizona. And I've been vegan most of my life. The reason why I went vegan is because I spent my summers at my grandparents' farm in Germany, and I made friends with one of the pigs, and he was near and dear to my heart. And one day my grandfather slaughtered him right in front of my eyes. And that's where I first learned where meat really comes from. I didn't even know as a child where meat comes from and where milk comes from. I mean, I knew that milk comes from a cow, but I thought it was normal. But the meat I refused to eat ever since childhood. But then later, when I learned about the dairy industry and the incredible brutalities against animals, that's when I stopped also the milk, the cheese, and any dairy and egg products. And I have a biblical wellness business So I'm a professional musician and pianist, and so I combine music in the form of sound therapy and biblical teachings and wellness teachings into my business. And I've been getting a lot of like hate from the meat eaters. They are like, even yesterday, I have a very, very dear friend. She grew up Amish, and she said that she feels that the vegans are like a cult. And I'm like, well, we are not the ones shedding the blood, you know, and I felt kind of hurt that she called us an actual, you know, religious cult. And these meat eater Christians, they always come at me with these arguments, you know, about, you know, the God gave us dominion, and God and everything that moves in the field is yours for food. And so I kind of want to learn from you how I can rebuttal those arguments and those scriptures in the Bible against the meat eaters, and have a really good, instead of hating on them, I think it's better to have a decent conversation and come from a point of like education and logic and just with kindness. And also I have a YouTube channel, and I want to start making a series about, you know, how God never allowed humanity to eat meat, but I want this to be really based in some good facts. And then I did tell my friend yesterday that I learned from you. I said I have a friend who is a Christian theologian who has made me aware of the fact that a lot of these Bible verses are changed by the evil scribes. And then again, you know, she's like, well, that sounds like all of you guys are like in a Christian cult or like a theological cult. And how can you prove that these Bible verses were really changed? You're just picking and choosing what you as a vegan want to pick, and then you just say, oh, it was changed. And so I kind of want to get some proof and some better foundation as to, you know, how I can even come back with different arguments against the meat eaters.
Good. Thank you, Daniela. And also, Tammy and sorry, I cannot read you. Tammy and yes,
It's Tammy and Mike.
yes,
I'll go
Tammy and Mike.
first.
Yes.
I've been vegan since the early 1990s, and I have a similar story to Daniela, where I spent often weekends at my aunt and uncle's farm, and I did witness several animals either not in good shape or one pig slaughtered. So that really changed my life. And my parents were not supportive of me in childhood. So when I moved out, I immediately I went vegetarian, and then I went vegan. And I grew up Christian, and I always, you know, I've always felt very close to Jesus. And so I'm here because I really appreciate your work, Chapman, and I also appreciate Craig's work at Creation Care Church and Swords to Plowshares. So, and I just want to learn more so that I can have a good rebuttal for people who don't believe it. So.
Morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, Chapman. In my beginning, I was raised Catholic. I was disillusioned by that, so we raised our children in a Lutheran church. Eventually, that became untenable. That There was too much, mean-spiritedness, backstabbing, very unchristian. This was even before, veganism was a thing. So I moved on to Buddhism myself for many years. Excuse me. And really appreciated those teachings, really helped, focus my mind and get me on the right path, which the Spirit led me back to the teachings of Christ. And that's when people like Reverend Carol Saunders came into my life, Craig, you, Chapman, Chen. And it's just been a blessing to have these people that have been doing the research and finding the truth that, people had known in their hearts, where it had been put there by Spirit. But now it's being brought out into the world. So truly thankful to be learning these things, so that we can talk to people about it. Try to, get as many people on the right path as we can. That's what Jesus wants. I think that's what the Spirit wants. So we're here to learn and be part of, doing the work of bringing heaven to earth. So appreciate Chapman and everybody that's here. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy, and thank you, Mike. And also, Nicole, will you please give us a brief introduction of yourself and why and what do you expect from this course?
I'm Nicole. I'm in Montreal, Canada. I'm studying theology, and I'm expecting to bring veganism into that. So I want to go into ministry, but I also want to obviously have a vegan ministry. So that's what I want to understand more, how Christianity and Judaism, how it originally was vegan.
Oh, thank you, Nicole. So, you are studying theology, good, and you aimed at becoming a priest. That's a very good ambition.
Yes, thank you.
And well, let's move on. And by the way, well, this course is supposed to be a 12 session, but with your support and with the support of our members, other members of the Facebook group Vegan Theology, and with support from other people as well, we may after this course, well, after the 12 session course is completed, we may continue to hold a weekly talk on the topic of veganism. So in the future, every week we may choose a particular topic to explore. Do you think this is a good idea?
Yes.
I think it's a good idea.
Definitely.
Yeah, I really like that idea.
Thank you. So let's move on. So we will now give a brief introduction to the basic meaning of dominion and subdue and God's image, and then we will explore more deeply into the standpoints of different theologians. Now, subdue in Genesis 1:28 means careful gardening, not human lordship over animals. That's our stance. Apart from the word dominion, which is often interpreted or misinterpreted as human dictatorship or human dictatorial lordship over other animals, subdue in Genesis 1:28 is also frequently misconstrued in a similar way. Actually, subdue here does not mean human entitlement to trample all other sentient beings of God under their feet, not even to arbitrarily mess with the ecological environment. It means careful gardening instead. According to Strong's exhaustive concordance, the Hebrew word for subdue is kabash, meaning to tread down, to conquer, to violate, to bring into subjection, to keep under, and to force, besides to subdue. Sounds very violent and tyrannical, eh? But first of all, please note that the object of this verb is the earth rather than the animals. Equally importantly, this word or kabash is relatively uncommon, and no other occurrence is directly similar to its usage here in Genesis 1:28. In this case, the most ideal method, the best way to decide its meaning would be to scrutinize how mankind or humankind was supposed to carry out the Lord's order to subdue the earth. So let us put it in context. We find the first instance of this in Genesis 2:15, where God instructed the first humans to dress the earth and to keep it. To dress the earth and to keep it. The Hebrew word for dress here is abad, which according to the Strong's concordance means to work or to serve, and that for keep is shamar, which means to watch or to preserve, as mentioned earlier. Further, due to human sin in Genesis 3:18, the land becomes full of thorns and thistles. In Genesis 4, Cain works the soil while Abel tends flocks. In Exodus 23:29, God says he will not expel the inhabitants of the land in 1 year, lest that the land become desolate. So subdue in Genesis 1:28 must mean careful gardening, as aforementioned, not brutalizing other sentient creatures, and not even damaging the environment on earth for selfish human purposes. And if it should imply anything forceful, it must refer to the hard work to be applied to plowing the soil in plant agriculture, in growing trees, in planting seeds, in getting rid of weeds, and to keeping the garden from being unruly and unproductive, to borrow Michael Steed's words. And the third controversial phrase is "make in God's image." So I will argue that animals are made at least partly in God's image. A lot of theologians like St Augustine, St Thomas Aquinas, John Calvin, Martin Luther, and Karl Barth defend human power over and abuse of animals by claiming that humans alone are created in the image of God. This ground is very shaky because animals at least partly manifest God's image because of the following reasons. Firstly, the Bible never denies that animals are made in the image of God. Never. Secondly, both humanity and other animals were made out of dust by God. Thirdly, God made a covenant with not only humanity but also other animals. Genesis 9:9, Hosea 2:18. Fourthly, many Bible verses describe how different animals bear different characteristics of God. Let's look at some examples. David Clough states that the image of God is radically underdetermined and illustrates how animals bear partial images of God in their own particular ways. For instance, Jehovah talks to the prophet Isaiah just like a lion roaring to his prey. Isaiah 31:4. Weeping for Jerusalem, Jesus yearns to gather his children together as a hen gathers her chicks under her wings. Matthew 23:37. And Luke 13:34, John the Baptist regards Jesus as God's Lamb. John 1:29. During Jesus' baptism, the Holy Spirit descends in the form of a dove on his head. Matthew 3:16. Fifthly, not only humans but other animals are gifted with a living soul. Nephesh chaya in Hebrew. Genesis 1:21-24 and Genesis 1:30. It follows that animals are our fellow creatures, that we should go vegan and stop eating, abusing them. Okay, any question about subdue and make in God's image?
No, I don't have a question.
Dominion misinterpreted for 2,000 years. Many Christian priests and theologians over the last 2,000 years, for instance, St. Aquinas or Martin Luther, John Calvin, Billy Graham, etc. We just raised a couple of examples for the sake of the time limit. And under these Christian priests, under the disingenuous influence of Paul, the anti-vegan, have anthropocentrically misinterpreted dominion as dictatorship or lordship, so that the majority of Christians enslave, exploit, rape, as in the dairy industry, murder, and eat animals without questions of conscience. 1 Corinthians 10:25. So this is St. Thomas Aquinas sneering at St. Francis of Assisi, the guardian saint of animals. Just a symbolic presentation. May not be a real incident. Just capture the spirit here. So question 96, Summa Theologica by St. Thomas Aquinas. It is written, let him have dominion over the fishes of the sea and the birds of the air and the beasts of the earth. I answer that not all animals are naturally subject to man. Now all animals are naturally subjected to man. From the order observed by nature, the imperfect are for the use of the perfect. As the plants make use of the earth for their nourishment, and animals make use of plants, and man makes use of both plants and animals. So sounds like might makes right. Power is right. It's might makes right. That is the hunting of wild animals is just and natural, because man thereby exercises a natural right. The order of divine providence always governs inferior things by the superior, as man being made to the image of God is above other animals. The subjection of other animals to man is proved to be natural. Might is right again, right? According to this Thomas Aquinas. So this is Martin Luther, a glutton, a famous glutton. While Martin Luther confesses on at least one occasion that every animal has a God-given soul, Luther interprets dominion over the sea, over the fish of the sea, over the fowl, and over every living thing upon the earth as domination, as despotism, claiming that humans are far, far superior to other animals. According to Luther's commentary on Genesis 7, even though the greater part of the world perishes due to the deluge, man nonetheless remains Lord of the creatures. albeit over fewer creatures than there were previously. And when he comes to dwell on Genesis 9:2, the fear of you shall be upon every beast. Luther argues that human domination has been enhanced and changed compared with that gifted to Adam. Until now, the animals did not have to die in order to provide food for man, but man was a gentle master of the beasts rather than their slayer or consumer. But now the animals are subjected to man as to a tyrant who has absolute power over life and death. This is Martin Luther's words. John Calvin, the anti-vegan. He's also a glutton. So John Calvin deems man Lord of the world. In his commentary on Genesis 1:28, John Calvin seizes upon the word dominion and anthropocentrically claims that God appointed man, it is true, Lord of the world, but he expressly subjects the animals to him, and hence we infer what was the end for which all things were created, namely, that none of the conveniences and necessities of life might be wanting to man. So to John Calvin, the animals on earth exist purely for the conveniences and necessities is of man. In his commentaries on Genesis 9:1-29, John Calvin unabashedly or unashamedly argues that eating animal flesh is not only consistent with Pauline teaching regarding liberty in meals, but is also likely a post-ark restoration of accepted practice before the flood. In fact, humans may take flesh food from the animal kingdom as if from a storehouse, from a warehouse, for the entire universe was set up especially for the sake of mankind. So animals are regarded by him as goods or items in the storehouse, as commodities in a warehouse. And Billy Graham, Okay, so has any one of you ever met Billy Graham? No.
Only on TV.
Okay, yes. He traveled a lot. So Billy Graham believes, I think his son went vegetarian for a period of time and then relapsed into Buddhism subsequently. Anyway, Billy Graham believes that animals are for man's enjoyment and use. In reply to the question, will there be animals in heaven? Billy Graham replies, man, as the highest order of creation, has been given dominion over the animal kingdom. We believe that animals were intended for man's enjoyment and use. The Bible itself does not indicate that there is life after death for animals. But of course, there are indications in Revelation. It may be that there are indications in Revelation that animals will be present during the second coming, or in the new heaven and earth. Anyway, Billy Graham goes on. It may be that God's purpose for animals is fulfilled on this earth. However, if animals would make us happier in heaven, surely there will be a place for them there. So you know what his he's implying, what he's getting at. He's implying that even when animals depart from this life, they will still have to serve humans as slaves, even in heaven. As aforementioned, Professor Andrew Lindsay interpreted dominion as stewardship instead of anthropocentric despotism in relation to animals on the ground that it is immediately followed by God's prescription of a veggie diet, so that the killing of any innocent sentient being who does not want to die is deemed murder. He even contends that the human species has the unique potential to become the servant species, able to work with God in liberating animals. Lindsay, 1995. So this is Professor Andrew Lindsay. He's also an Anglican priest, as you may be aware, and he has been an Oxford or theology. He said, and he has been an Oxford professor in theology for more than 30 years. So, however, Lindsay also believes that dominion means lordship or God-given power over animals, although he adds that the inner logic of Christ's lordship is the sacrifice of the higher for the lower. Now look, powers tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Lord Acton, 1887. Whenever humans think that they have some sort of power over someone else, they almost always tend to abuse it. So if they think they are a steward or even a caretaker, they think they still got some. They think they still got some power, and many of them will abuse it. So that's why the most ideal, the most safe translation for dominion in Genesis 1:26-28 is servanthood, not even stewardship. We'll see how some theologians interpret stewardship here. Anyway, any question for the time being?
So basically, it's a matter of interpretation. When God said, let us make man in our image, and then also have dominion over the fish of the sea and the fowl in the air and the cattle and every creeping thing. So that is that a matter of interpretation, or?
Well, you see, last time we said that every translation is interpretation, every translation is manipulation, and our ultimate litmus test, as we went through last time, the ultimate litmus test for any biblical verse is whether it aligns with the precept that God is love. And God loves all His creation, and so if God is love, He would not want His creatures to be subjected to abuse and to murder and to exploitation and to rape. So,
Okay.
and anyway, many modern animal-friendly theologians who interpret dominion as stewardship or lordship maintain that it is acceptable to kill the innocent creatures of God for human purposes, such as food or clothing, provided that the animals are treated humanely, compassionately, and respectfully while they are still alive. There is, however, nothing sympathetic or reverential or responsible or respectful or compassionate or conscientious about murdering an innocent creature of God who does not want to die. Yes. Ed Winters has said something like this. Not this is my words, not his words, but he has said something like this. He said there is nothing humane about killing someone who doesn't want to die. Guess who this guy is? Any attempt? Okay, never mind. This guy is Karl Barth. Karl Barth is probably one of the most famous modern theologians. And Karl Barth interprets dominion as lordship with the primary meaning of requisitioning, disciplining, taming, harnessing, exploiting, and making profitable use of them. 1961, Karl Barth. So that's his interpretation of dominion as lordship. What is human lordship over the beast if it cannot take this form of domesticating animals? Rhetorically asks Barth, 1961 again. To Barth, man is set up by God as Lord on the earth, which is already furnished with these creatures as his means of life. Well, he's said to be an animal-friendly theologian, as you may be aware. But that's his actual words. The atrocities are committed against trillions of guiltless creatures of God every year in hunting lodges, in slaughterhouses, in medical labs, are barefacedly described by Barth as potentially sacred, respectful, considerate, friendly, understanding, sympathetic. Again, the killing of animals in obedience is possible only as a deeply reverential act of repentance, gratitude, praise on the part of the forgiven sinner in face of the one who is the creator and Lord of man and beast, wrote Barth, 1936, in Church Dogmatics, Volume 3. So that means the killing of animals in slaughterhouses and in medical labs is potentially reverential. Potentially an act of atonement. Guess who this guy is? Any idea?
C.S. Lewis.
Yes, you're correct, right. Good guess. In vivisection, well, C.S. Lewis posed himself as an anti-vivisection an activist, but that's his words. In Vivisection, his book, C.S. Lewis contends that a Christian pathologist who cuts up innocent creatures of God deserves respect as long as he or she does their job carefully with a deep sense of responsibility and an awareness of the high standard to be met to justify such sacrifices. But again, there is nothing respectful or responsible or justifying about killing an innocent creature of God who wants to stay alive. C.S. Lewis' fake animal concern stems from his misconception of dominion in Genesis 1 as lordship rather than powerless servanthood. The same story, the same theory. Man was appointed by God to have dominion over the beasts, And everything a man does to an animal is either a lawful exercise or a sacrilegious abuse of an authority by divine rights. Lewis, 1959. Okay, dominion means servanthood. So Adam and Eve serving the animals, or supposedly, so they are supposed to serve the animals. Matthew Scully's book, Dominion. We are abusing dominion, the first and greatest power given to man on earth. Matthew Scully, if my memory serves me right, is an American Republican, right? An advisor to President Biden or to which President Bush? Yes.
Bush.
Yes, President Bush. Yes. Thank you.
He was a speechwriter for him.
Sure. Thank you, Craig. Factory farming. If we are going to have our meats and other animal products, there are natural costs to obtaining them. Factory farming came about when resourceful men figured out ways of getting around those natural costs. Scully, 2005. So, and so that implies that if animals, farmed animals, are treated humanely while alive, it's all right to kill them and for human purposes. And he's also of the view that animals do not have rights. We are called to treat them with kindness, not because they have rights or power or some claim to equality. We owe them a merciful death, and we owe them a merciful life. Again, it's Scully. And when human beings cannot do something humanely, then we should not do it at all. So, well, again, if you are innocent and someone wants to kill you, and they say they are going to give you a merciful life, will you be grateful? We don't think so. And another famous theologian is Stephen Webb. Humanity alone was created in the image of God. They are God's representatives on earth who are superior to animals. And God has granted humans dominion over the animals. These people are all the so-called animal-friendly theologians. That's their interpretation of the image of God and dominion. So this is Stephen Webb. While Webb does admit that humans are to be God's stewards of the good creation, he is also adamant that humans are granted authority by God to rule over and to use the animals, though that power is meant to be administered responsibly. Again, killing an animal is all right if it is done responsibly. So, by the way, Stephen Webb was the co-founder of a vegetarian society, but in 2006 he was fired. He was removed from the society because it's found out that he was not in fact a vegetarian. So. Maybe you know him, right? You know this gentleman. He's Professor David Clough, an animal theologian. he has made a lot of contributions to animal theology. For example, he argues that the God's incarnation, the incarnation of God, means the word logos becoming flesh, and so the incarnation of God means that in this way, the incarnation of God sort of breaks the boundary between animals and humans, because flesh is common to both animals and humans. And when God becomes flesh, he removes, or he blurs the boundary between animals and humans, and may even remove the boundary between God and his creation. Anyway, David Clough argues that it is acceptable for humans to be conscientious omnivores. That's the phrase he used. Provided that the animals concerned have been given a good life, for such use of them supposedly respects their relationship to us as fellow creatures of God. Again, we wonder whether there is anything conscientious or respectful about killing someone who doesn't want to die. There is again, so again, Clough's internal contradiction arises precisely from his anthropocentric reading of dominion, although he insists that dominion does not mean domination. And are humans to play God to other animals? Clough writes that humans have a distinctive calling to image God in a particular human way, specifically in relation to other animals, and he ties this calling to the notions of dominion and stewardship. So to image God in relation to other animals is a very ambiguous phrase. To image God, do you mean to play God to other animals? So very confusing, to say the least. Anyway, make in God's image in some other misinterpretations. This is St Augustine. St Augustine believes that not animals but humans were made in the image of God in terms of rationality, reason, which is symbolized by the erect posture of Homo sapiens, so that all animals are supposed to be under human control. And man is said to have been made to the image of God, not on account of his body, but on account of that power by which he surpasses the cattle. For all the other animals are subject to man not by reason of the body, but by reason of the intellect, which we have and which they do not have. Well, of course, scientific studies have proven this to be wrong. Yes, animals could also reason, although in a different way, maybe in different ways from humans, but they have intellect, just different. And even our body has been made so that it reveals that we are better than the beasts, and for that reason, like God. Yes, this is again, this suggests that we are God to other animals. That's very arrogant, to say the least. Very humanocentric, so to speak. So this comes from St. Augustine on Genesis against the Manichees and on the literal interpretation of Genesis. And this is John Wesley. Wesley, a follower of Paul. John Wesley states that God cares about all creatures, that animals suffer terribly, that we should treat them more kindly. But he interprets dominion in Genesis 1:28 as humans' God-appointed governorship over animals, and made in God's image as being exclusive to humanity. In this way, he regards humanity as God's surrogate on earth, the prince and governor of the inferior creatures. Paradoxically, Wesley, despite his doctor's advice, once interrupted his vegetarian diet in order to avoid offending his brothers, in particular Dr. Gibson, the Bishop of London, and to show that vegetarianism is a health choice rather than a moral issue. Wayne Grudem, Systematic Theology and Introduction to Biblical Doctrine. According to Grudem, Bible Doctrine and Christian Life, Adam and Eve were also kings, in a sense of having been given dominion and rule over the creation. God put mankind on the earth to subdue it and rule over it as God's representatives. The Hebrew words translated subdue means to make the earth useful for human beings' benefit and enjoyment, to develop it wisely. God was entrusting Adam and Eve, and by implication the entire human race, with stewardship over the earth, and God wanted them to create useful products from the earth for their benefit and enjoyment. That's what subdue the earth implies. This comes from Wayne Grudem's Pastoral Pensée, the 8th commandment as the moral foundation for property rights, human flourishing, and careers in business. So note that it's for property rights. That means Wayne Grudem regards animals as human properties, not sentient beings. Very anthropocentric, to say the least. All right, so any questions?